Thank you very much. It's a privilege to be here. And it's a privilege also to speak after Solo. I'm an eyewitness that his work and his efforts are working. The first time I went into Kibera in 2012, the first message that I saw so broad on the wall is peace wanted alive. And that is great. My name is Selline Korir. For the last 23 years, my life has been defined and shaped by peace. And so peace has become my life. I share it, I live it, and I speak it wherever I go. I define myself as a mediator, and so also in this context, see myself with all the work that I have been able to do for the last 23 years. I see myself as a bridge builder. Currently, I'm providing a leadership to a program called Kenya Tuna Uwezo program, which is a conflict mitigation program, which is also responding to the effects of violent extremism in the informal settlements of Nairobi. It is a program that is supported by USAID but implemented by global communities. Now, I'm going to share very briefly that my peace talk will really be able to bring out 3 key things in my life, and will also tell the story of what I've been able to do. But the 3 single stories that are key in my sharing is that in every bad situation, our courageous acts make a difference. That in every situation, the women have the power to make a difference. And that the story that I'm going to tell will be able to demonstrate clearly that peace is possible, and that every step in peace building and reconciliation leaves a footmark that we are able to commit to collectively. My engagement in peace building in this country can be traced back in 1992. So those of you who are in this room during that time, I can see the honorables here, you will identify with this story. In 1992, Kenya experienced what we call land clashes or ethnic clashes. And the excuse given for these land clashes was historical injustices. It was negative politics and the manipulation of the dissatisfaction that communities had or grievances. And so that is how I began my work. I engaged with NCCK, the National Council of Churches of Kenya, that gave me the opportunity to go across the country to be able to work with the displaced persons in providing relief services. But during that time, I witnessed the suffering that women and children were undergoing. The women were conditioned on what to say and what not to say. The women who were displaced were in the camps, and the only relief items that were being given at that time was maize and beans and blankets. Leave alone these days, Goulet is bringing a lot of goodies. It was maize and beans and blankets. Nobody remembered that women needed cooking utensils like sufurias and cups to be able to cook these beans and maize. Nobody remembered that in the IDP camps, there were women who were displaced when they were expectant, and that in the process of being in the camps, they were giving birth. And so, when I witnessed that, I said I would take a step. In that context, the opportunity given, I made a decision I was going to make a step. And so I took a step, and the first step that I made is I went to my supervisor then, the late Rose Barmasai, may God rest her soul in peace. And I took a step and I told her all the stories and all what I had witnessed, the sufferings, the silence of the women, the fact that men spoke everything about what they were going through And then they told the women to endorse, that the women were not given opportunity to say what they were going through. And so I shared with her, and I asked her one question. I asked her, can you give me opportunity to have seminars that will only bring women alone, so that women can speak their pain, can speak their ideas on how they contribute to the construction of the country, but also just to have a space to cry and to start healing, so that they can rise up with new strength and new breath in order to start engaging. And so we started breaking the silence. I was told, you have my blessings. And I scooped it like a media person, and I ran with it. And in every district that we walked across this country, Western Province, Coast region, the Nyanza region that were affected too, Pokot region, which is part of North Rift, I made a decision that I was giving the women opportunity to say what they are going through and how they could make peace. And so very quickly, we had a series of seminars that were called Good Neighborliness Seminars. And in these seminars, women identified the opportunities and platforms and avenues that they had that could give them the chance to speak peace. So they identified the chiefs' public barazas in their villages. They talked about the opportunities within the schools where their children were studying, and they said, when we go for parents' meeting, we can start talking. They talked about marketplaces, and they agreed that whenever they would go to our marketplaces, they would start exchanging peace messages through buying and selling. And they talked about so many things. And so we agreed that we're going to make deliberate efforts to really start engaging each other, start talking and visiting women. We visited women who were displaced and looked at their condition and started contributing as women. Those little efforts bore fruit, and the women and youth started interacting. And finally, somehow calm, normalcy started returning into our villages. And when this started happening, then resettlement began. And we agreed that as resettlements were taking place, women who are receiving, those women who had been in the camps, would go with them and start helping them to rebuild their houses. So construction was being done across ethnic groups. We encouraged women to start visiting each other during the weddings and during the birth times. And so we worked together as women and encouraged the women to work together. My message and the lessons that I have drawn from the great work that we've been able to do is that peace is possible, but it requires commitment. It is that peace is a risky endeavor. And that for me, as a woman who has the power, I do not have to wait to see a violence happen somewhere before I can intervene. And so today, as I speak to you, and as many of you know, when I get into a cab, I say, this is my space to speak peace to the driver. When I go to buy an item in a shop, I say, this is my space to make peace. When I go to the communities where I work right now in the informal settlements, we talk peace. And so my encouragement, saying, as I say, peace is possible, let us take every opportunity and be the hummingbird that Wangari Maathai spoke about. When all the elephants and big animals were watching with their big eyes in the forest, and the forest was burning, the hummingbird decided to take water through its beak, little by little, and managed to control the fire in the forest. Thank you very much.